happiness is only possible in the present moment. Welcome to Mindfulness, a space where we explore how to be truly alive, right here, right now. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been physically present, but mentally 1,000 miles away? Sitting in a meeting while thinking about dinner. At dinner, thinking about work, with your kids but scrolling on your phone. At some point, most of us feel like we're chasing life instead of living it. I was once the same. I lived in constant fast forward, rushing to meet deadlines, planning the next step, chasing the next version of success. I believed if I could just accomplish enough, happiness would eventually show up. But it never did. Not really. Then, one quiet morning, I came across a quote by Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh that gently stopped me in my tracks. Many people are alive, but don't touch the miracle of being alive. Those words hit me with unexpected clarity. I realized I had been living everywhere except now. My body was here, but my mind was always somewhere else. The future, the past, the next problem to solve. I wasn't living. I was chasing. Here's the truth. I'm not alone. You're not alone. Most of us were taught to believe that happiness is something we earn, something that comes later, once we've done more, become more, proven more. But mindfulness, the practice of being fully present, offers a quiet but revolutionary truth. Happiness isn't in the next achievement or tomorrow's version of yourself. It's here, now, in this breath, this step, this cup of tea, this conversation. Mindfulness invites us to stop running and remember that joy is always available if we learn how to show up. That's what Thich Nhat Hanh called the miracle of mindfulness. And once you touch it, even for a few seconds, everything shifts. You stop waiting to live and start experiencing life. I remember the first time I really practiced mindfulness. Not just thought about it, but lived it. I was washing dishes. Normally, I'd rush through that chore while half listening to a podcast or checking messages. But that day, I did it differently. I felt the warm water, noticed the smell of the soap, paid attention to each plate. I breathed. I slowed down. On the outside, nothing special happened. But inside, something softened. I felt peace. Not later, but now. That moment taught me more than any book ever could. Mindfulness isn't about escaping life. It's about entering it fully. Maybe that's what brought you here. You're not looking for a quick fix or a new way to optimize productivity. You're looking for a way to feel whole, grounded, alive. You're looking for a way back to yourself. And that's exactly what mindfulness offers. In this article, we'll explore what mindfulness really is, why it matters so much in our fast-paced world, how to practice it in simple and doable ways, and how to overcome common misunderstandings that may have held you back. We'll also share stories from real people, just like you, who found peace, clarity, and healing through mindfulness. But before we move forward, there's something important I want to say. This journey is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to the person you've always been, the one underneath the noise, the stress, the pressure, the one who already knows how to be still. Thich Nhat Hanh often reminded us, peace is already within us. We only need to allow it to come to the surface. Mindfulness is how we do that. It's how we remember to breathe, to feel, to be. Not someday, today. And you don't have to change your life to begin. You don't need to meditate for an hour a day or travel to a mountaintop. You can start exactly where you are, while folding laundry, sitting in traffic, taking a walk, holding a cup of coffee. All it takes is attention and intention. All it takes is this moment. Throughout the years, many teachers have carried the torch of mindfulness in the West. In addition to Thich Nhat Hanh, there's Jon Kabat-Zinn, who brought mindfulness into hospitals and universities. Tara Brach, whose work blends psychology and presence. Sharon Salzberg, who teaches loving-kindness meditation with clarity and warmth. Their teachings remind us that mindfulness isn't just a tool for relaxation. It's a path to deep inner freedom. If you've read this far, something inside you is already awakening, a desire to live more fully, to be more present, to stop waiting for life to begin. That is enough. You are enough. You don't need to do more. You just need to come back. Mindfulness doesn't promise to solve every problem, but it offers something even more powerful, the ability to stay connected to yourself in the middle of it all, to breathe when life gets messy, to see clearly when things feel heavy, to love what's here, not just what's coming. You are not behind. You are not late. This moment is waiting for you. Let's begin. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is one of those words we hear more and more these days, in wellness blogs, on mental health podcasts, even in corporate boardrooms. But for something so widely talked about, it's often misunderstood. At its core, mindfulness is simply this: being fully present with what's happening without trying to change it. It means noticing your thoughts, your emotions, your surroundings, your breath, and doing so with kindness and curiosity, not judgment. Thich Nhat Hanh, one of the greatest teachers of our time, described mindfulness beautifully. He said, "Mindfulness is the energy that helps us recognize the conditions of happiness that are already present in our lives." It's not about escaping reality. It's about learning to be deeply in touch with it, even the messy parts. Mindfulness isn't zoning out or trying to have a blank mind. It's the opposite. It's about waking up, feeling the ground beneath your feet, hearing the birds outside your window, realizing that this cup of coffee you're holding is warm and comforting and real. It's about becoming intimate with your own life, one moment at a time. Jon Kabat-Zinn, a pioneer in bringing mindfulness to medicine and science in the US, offers a simple definition that has helped millions. Mindfulness is awareness that arises through paying attention, on purpose, in the present moment, non-judgmentally. That last part, non-judgmentally, is essential. Mindfulness isn't about fixing or forcing anything. It's about making space for what is. Think about the last time you were truly present. Maybe it was watching the sunset, or laughing with a friend, or holding a sleeping baby. In those moments, your mind wasn't racing ahead or stuck in the past. You were here. You felt alive. That's mindfulness. The only difference is that with practice, you can invite that presence into ordinary moments, not just the special ones. You don't have to sit cross-legged on a cushion or chant in another language to practice mindfulness. In fact, many of the most powerful moments of mindfulness happen while standing in line at the grocery store, folding laundry, brushing your teeth. Mindfulness is not a technique reserved for monks or spiritual experts. It's a human capacity, something you already have, even if it's been asleep for a while. The breath is often our first doorway into mindfulness. Why? Because it's always with us, always now. As Thich Nhat Hanh taught, feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. Every breath is a chance to return to yourself, a chance to stop reacting and start noticing. Mindfulness also invites us to become friends with our thoughts, rather than slaves to them. Most of the time, we're caught in what psychologists call autopilot mode. We do things out of habit, without noticing. We drive without seeing the road. We eat without tasting. We speak without truly listening. Mindfulness gently interrupts that cycle. It gives us a chance to choose how we show up. In recent decades, Western teachers like Sharon Salzberg and Tara Brach have helped bring mindfulness into everyday language. They remind us that mindfulness is not about becoming calm, though calm may come. It's about becoming real. Meeting your own experience with honesty and compassion. Feeling what you feel, letting go of what you don't need to carry anymore. There are many forms of mindfulness practice. Some people find it through sitting meditation, others through mindful walking, mindful eating, journaling, or simply pausing during the day to breathe. What matters is not how it looks from the outside, but how it feels from the inside. Are you here? Are you awake to this moment? One of the most powerful truths about mindfulness is this: it doesn't require you to add anything to your life. You don't need special gear, expensive apps, or a silent retreat in the mountains. What you need is already here. Your breath, your body, your attention. Mindfulness is about remembering what you already have. Sometimes people say, I tried mindfulness, but I'm not good at it. My mind won't stop thinking. That's like saying you're bad at being human. The mind thinks. That's what it does. Mindfulness isn't about stopping thoughts. It's about learning how to see them without being overwhelmed. As Tara Brach often says, what we practice grows stronger. With time, awareness grows, patience grows, freedom grows. When we practice mindfulness, we begin to notice the small, beautiful things we usually miss. The way sunlight moves across the room, the feeling of our feet on the ground, the kindness in someone's eyes. Life becomes more vivid, more textured, more sacred. Not because it changed, but because we finally showed up for it. So if you're wondering what mindfulness is, maybe the simplest answer is this. It's the art of coming home. Home to your body, home to your breath, home to this moment, the only place where life actually happens. And in that home, you may just find a peace you didn't know you were looking for. Why mindfulness matters. If there's one thing we all have in common today, it's this. We're busy. Not just physically busy. Emotionally, mentally, digitally busy. Our minds are constantly scrolling, switching, reacting. We live in a world of endless notifications, overflowing to-do lists, and a culture that tells us you're only as valuable as how much you produce. In the middle of that noise, mindfulness isn't just helpful, it's necessary. Thich Nhat Hanh used to say, the present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it. But the modern world pulls us away from that attention. It trains us to live in our heads instead of our lives. We're told to multitask, hustle, achieve, consume. Yet what many of us are truly craving isn't more. It's depth, stillness, presence, a way back to ourselves. Mindfulness matters because it interrupts the autopilot we often live on. That autopilot can look like stress, anxiety, burnout, disconnection. It shows up when we check our email before we even get out of bed, when we eat lunch while working at our desks and barely notice the taste, when we lie awake at night, rehashing conversations or worrying about things we can't control. Science is catching up with what mindfulness teachers have known for centuries. Research from institutions like Harvard and Stanford shows that mindfulness can significantly reduce stress, improve sleep, boost immune function, increase focus, and even change the structure of the brain. In one study, participants who practiced mindfulness for just 8 weeks showed measurable changes in areas of the brain related to memory, empathy, and emotional regulation. But beyond the data, here's what really matters. Mindfulness helps you show up to your life. Not just when things are easy, but especially when they're hard. When you're feeling overwhelmed, mindfulness teaches you to pause instead of panic. When you're in conflict, it helps you respond instead of react. When you're grieving or struggling, it gives you space to feel without being consumed. Jon Kabat-Zinn, who founded the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction (MBSR) program at the University of Massachusetts Medical School, often says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. That's the heart of mindfulness. Life will still be messy. Things will still go wrong. But with mindfulness, you learn how to meet the moment instead of resisting it. For many people, mindfulness becomes the missing piece they didn't know they were searching for. It reconnects us not only with ourselves, but with others. When we're truly present, we listen more deeply, speak more truthfully, and care more fully. Our relationships improve not because we fix other people, but because we become more available to love and be loved. Sharon Salzberg reminds us that mindfulness and compassion go hand in hand. The healing is in the return, she says. Not in staying perfectly present every second, but in gently bringing ourselves back when we wander. Back to the breath, back to the moment, back to the heart. In a culture obsessed with efficiency, mindfulness teaches us to slow down. Not because slowness is better, but because slowness allows us to see, to feel, to choose, to live with intention rather than impulse. It's easy to think we don't have time for mindfulness, but ask yourself this: how much of your life are you missing because you're too distracted to notice it? How many conversations feel half-lived? How many meals rush through? How many days blur together? Mindfulness doesn't add more to your plate. It transforms how you carry it. It turns the ordinary into sacred, not by changing the moment, but by changing the way you see the moment. In the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, drink your tea slowly and reverently, as if it is the axis on which the whole earth revolves, slowly, evenly, without rushing toward the future. That quote isn't just poetic, it's profoundly practical. Mindfulness matters because it's how we reclaim our time, our energy, and our peace in a world that constantly pulls us away from them. And perhaps most importantly, mindfulness teaches us that we are not broken, we are not behind, we are not something that needs fixing. We are simply human, and in our humanity, there is deep wisdom, resilience, and beauty. We only need to slow down long enough to remember it. How to practice. The beauty of mindfulness is that it doesn't require special tools, perfect conditions, or even a lot of time. You don't need to fly to a retreat center or sit in a candlelit room for an hour a day. You can begin right now, exactly where you are, with exactly who you are. Thich Nhat Hanh often said, "There is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way." The same is true for mindfulness. It's not something you achieve later. It's something you live into, breath by breath. The key is not to overthink it. Start simple. Start small. Start with what's already here. The most basic and powerful way to practice mindfulness is through your breath. The breath is always available. It's not in the past or the future. It's right here. When you bring your attention to your breathing, you return to the present moment. Try this. Sit or stand comfortably. Let your shoulders drop. Take a gentle breath in through your nose. Notice the air as it moves into your lungs. Then exhale slowly through your mouth or nose. Feel the breath leave your body. Do this for 3 breaths. That's it. You just practiced mindfulness. You can also bring mindfulness into everyday tasks. Thich Nhat Hanh loved to teach about mindful walking, mindful eating, and even mindful dishwashing. The idea is simple. Whatever you're doing, do it fully. When you walk, feel your feet touching the ground. When you eat, truly taste your food. When you wash the dishes, be present with the warm water, the movement of your hands, the rhythm of the task. He wrote, "While washing the dishes, one should only be washing the dishes." That sounds simple, but it's radical in a world where our minds are always elsewhere. This kind of attention transforms ordinary routines into moments of peace and clarity. You can also try a short body scan. Close your eyes and bring awareness to different parts of your body. Your feet, your legs, your belly, your hands, your shoulders, your face. Notice any tension or sensation. You're not trying to fix anything. You're just listening. This kind of gentle noticing builds awareness and connection with your physical self. Jon Kabat-Zinn developed a well-known practice called the body scan as part of his mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR program. It's a simple way to reconnect with your body, not as a machine, but as something alive, sensitive, and wise. Practicing for even 5 to 10 minutes can help regulate your nervous system and calm the mind. Another beautiful way to practice mindfulness is through loving kindness meditation, a form of mindfulness focused on compassion. Sharon Salzberg teaches this with deep grace. Sit quietly and silently repeat phrases like, "May I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I live with ease." Then extend those wishes to others, a loved one, a stranger, even someone you're in conflict with. This practice softens the heart and expands our sense of connection. Tara Brach also often speaks about the RAIN method, a powerful tool for meeting difficult emotions with mindfulness and self-compassion. RAIN stands for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. When you feel overwhelmed, instead of running from the feeling, you turn toward it with curiosity. You recognize what you're feeling. Allow it to be there without judgment. Gently explore where it lives in your body or mind and offer yourself care. It's like giving your inner world a soft, steady hand to hold. If you're someone who struggles to sit still, mindful walking might be for you. Thich Nhat Hanh described walking meditation as kissing the earth with your feet. You walk slowly, with full attention to your steps, your breath, and the sensation of movement. Each step becomes a prayer, a homecoming. You don't need a big park. A hallway or sidewalk is enough. You can also set mindfulness anchors throughout your day. These are little reminders that bring you back to the present moment. It might be every time your phone buzzes, or when you open a door, or when you hear a bird sing. These tiny pauses can change the entire texture of your day. People often ask how long they should practice. The answer is whatever works for you. 1 minute is better than none. 5 minutes is beautiful. 20 minutes is amazing. The goal isn't to become a perfect meditator. It's to become more alive. You might also consider keeping a mindfulness journal. At the end of the day, write down a few things you noticed, not achievements, but moments of presence. Maybe you heard the wind in the trees, or really tasted your lunch, or took 3 conscious breaths before answering an email. These small moments are victories. They are evidence that you are waking up. Remember, mindfulness is a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it gets. But even when you forget, that's okay. In fact, every time you notice you've drifted and gently return, that moment of coming back is the heart of the practice. As Tara Brach says, each time you return to the moment, you strengthen your capacity for presence and compassion. You don't have to wait for your life to calm down before you begin. Mindfulness doesn't require a perfect life. It just requires your attention, your willingness to show up. And when you do, you may begin to discover something profound. That peace isn't something far away. That joy isn't something you have to chase. That you, exactly as you are in this very moment, are enough. Common myths about mindfulness and meditation. If you've ever thought, mindfulness isn't for me, you're not alone. And chances are, what's holding you back might just be a misunderstanding. Even though mindfulness is a natural human ability, many of us carry myths about it that make it feel confusing, intimidating, or even impossible. Let's clear that up. One of the most common myths is the idea that you have to stop thinking in order to meditate. People try to sit still, but when thoughts arise, they think they've failed. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings about mindfulness. As Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us, meditation is not to escape from society, but to come back to ourselves and see what is going on. Your mind is designed to think. Thoughts will come. The practice is not to stop them, but to notice them without getting caught in them. The moment you notice, you are practicing mindfulness. Another myth is that mindfulness is only for calm, spiritual people, monks, yoga teachers, or people who already have their life together. But this couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, mindfulness is especially useful when your life feels messy, chaotic, or painful. That's when you need it most. You don't have to be peaceful to practice. You practice to find peace. Even teachers like Tara Brach often speak about meeting intense emotions, fear, grief, shame, with mindfulness and compassion. That's where healing begins. There's also a belief that mindfulness takes too much time, that unless you have 30 or 60 minutes a day, it's not worth doing. But the truth is, one mindful breath can shift your entire nervous system. A minute of stillness can reset your day. Jon Kabat-Zinn famously said, "If you're breathing, there's more right with you than wrong with you." You don't need to set aside a huge block of time. You can begin with one breath, one step, one conscious moment. Some people worry that mindfulness is a religious practice, and they're not sure if it fits with their beliefs. It's true that mindfulness has roots in Buddhist tradition, particularly in the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh. But the way it's practiced today is often secular, scientific, and universal. It's not about adopting a new religion. It's about learning to be awake in your life. People from every faith background, or no faith at all, practice mindfulness to feel more grounded, present, and alive. Another myth is that you have to sit still or be in silence to practice. While formal sitting meditation can be powerful, it's not the only way. Walking meditation, mindful eating, breathing while stuck in traffic, pausing before answering a text, all of these are forms of mindfulness. Sharon Salzberg often talks about practicing on the spot in the midst of daily life. You don't need a meditation cushion to wake up to the present moment. You just need awareness and intention. Many people also believe they're bad at mindfulness because they get distracted. But getting distracted is not failure. It's human. The key is what you do when you notice. Do you criticize yourself, or do you gently come back to your breath? Every time you return to the present, you're strengthening the muscle of mindfulness. That return, not perfect focus, is the heart of the practice. There's a myth that mindfulness makes you passive, like you'll just accept everything and stop trying to change things. But mindfulness doesn't mean becoming numb or indifferent. It means being awake enough to respond wisely, rather than react impulsively. As Thich Nhat Hanh taught, mindfulness allows us to act with clarity, compassion, and courage. It's not about sitting back. It's about showing up, fully and intentionally, to whatever needs your attention. Some worry that if they slow down and start practicing mindfulness, they'll lose their edge, become less ambitious or productive. But in reality, mindfulness enhances focus, creativity, and emotional intelligence. It doesn't make you do less. It helps you do what matters with more presence and less burnout. That's why companies like Google, Apple, and even the US military have integrated mindfulness training into their systems, not to make people soft, but to help them stay steady, aware, and resilient under pressure. Here's another myth, that mindfulness is always peaceful. Sometimes when you start practicing, you'll notice discomfort. Old emotions surface, thoughts get louder. You may even feel restless or anxious at first. That's not a sign that it's not working. It's a sign that you're waking up. As Tara Brach says, mindfulness is not about feeling better. It's about getting better at feeling. That means creating space for whatever arises, not to drown in it, but to hold it with kindness. Finally, there's the idea that mindfulness is a solo journey, something you do alone in your own little bubble. While it's true that mindfulness begins within, it's also deeply relational. When you practice presence, your relationships change. You listen more deeply. You speak more honestly. You become more patient, more compassionate. The peace you build inside ripples outward into your family, your workplace, your community. So if any of these myths have been holding you back, it's okay. Now you know better. Mindfulness isn't about perfection. It's about practice. And anyone, truly anyone, can begin. Even you. Even now. Real life stories. Ordinary people, extraordinary shifts. Sometimes the best way to understand mindfulness is not through theory, but through stories. Real people, real challenges, real change. Mindfulness isn't about perfection. It's about remembering, over and over again, that peace is always just one breath away. Let's start with Sarah, a 39-year-old nurse from Chicago. She spent most of her days moving at full speed, juggling shifts, caring for patients, supporting her kids, and constantly feeling like she was falling short. When the pandemic hit, everything intensified. Anxiety became her default setting. She stumbled across a podcast featuring Jon Kabat-Zinn, and something about his calm voice, his reminder to just come back to this moment, gave her pause. That night, instead of doom scrolling herself to sleep, she sat on the edge of her bed and took 5 mindful breaths. Nothing dramatic happened, but it felt like she had returned to herself. Since then, she's made a habit of starting each shift with 1 minute of stillness. It doesn't erase the chaos, but she says, now I move through it with more grace. Then there's Marcus, a retired veteran living in Colorado. After leaving the military, he battled PTSD, insomnia, and a deep sense of disconnection. Therapy helped, but something still felt missing. His counselor introduced him to Sharon Salzberg's work on loving-kindness meditation. At first, Marcus resisted. The idea of sending love to himself felt strange, even weak. But he gave it a try. Slowly, through repeating the phrases, "May I be safe, may I be happy," he began to feel something shift. It's not that the pain went away, he says, but I stopped being at war with myself. He now volunteers at a local veterans center, teaching mindfulness to others who know what it means to carry invisible wounds. Linda, a high school teacher in Oregon, discovered mindfulness through a workshop at her school. Burned out and emotionally drained, she was skeptical at first. I thought I needed a vacation, not a breathing exercise, she laughs. But when the facilitator read a passage from Thich Nhat Hanh about the miracle of simply walking and being aware of each step, something clicked. That afternoon, instead of rushing to her car after work, she walked slowly, noticing the feel of her feet on the pavement, the sound of birds, the coolness of the wind. It was the first time in months I didn't feel numb. She's now introduced short mindfulness breaks into her classroom, helping both herself and her students feel more grounded. In Florida, James, a 28-year-old software engineer, found mindfulness through an app. What started as a way to sleep better turned into a deeper daily practice. He now spends 10 minutes each morning in silent meditation. I used to think I had to fix everything in my life before I could feel calm, he says. Now I understand that calm comes from how I relate to things, not whether everything is perfect. He credits the teachings of Tara Brach, especially the RAIN method, with helping him respond to difficult emotions with more curiosity and less judgment. Then there's Maria, a grandmother in New Mexico who never thought of herself as spiritual or mindful. But after attending a day of mindfulness at a local retreat center inspired by Plum Village, she realized how often she had been rushing through life. I used to think being productive was the same as being alive, but I missed so much. Now she practices mindful eating with her grandkids. We say thank you to the apple before we eat it, she smiles. It slows us down, makes us appreciate. It feels sacred, even though it's just an apple. These are not gurus. They are not monks or influencers. They're people like you and me, people who faced stress, grief, fear, fatigue, and chose to meet those experiences with presence rather than resistance. That's the quiet power of mindfulness. The stories go on and on. A college student using mindful breathing to manage exam anxiety. A single dad turning bedtime routines into moments of connection. A cancer survivor learning to listen to her body again, gently and without fear. A couple learning to pause before reacting, saving their marriage one breath at a time. Each one of these people found their own way into the practice. Some began with apps, others with books, some through a crisis, others through curiosity. What they have in common is this. They discovered that mindfulness isn't something outside of them. It's something they already had. Waiting. Thich Nhat Hanh often said, you don't have to go to the Himalayas to find peace. You just have to go home to yourself. These stories are proof. Mindfulness doesn't require a different life. It helps you show up for the one you already have. Maybe your story is still unfolding. Maybe you're reading this and wondering, could this work for me? There's only one way to know. Begin. By now, you've seen that mindfulness isn't reserved for monks on a mountain or people who have it all together. It's for people with busy minds, full calendars, racing hearts. In other words, people like us. People living in the real world, carrying real responsibilities, navigating real emotions. Maybe what you've read has stirred something, a curiosity, a longing, a quiet remembering of what it feels like to be fully alive. That is not a coincidence. That's the seed of mindfulness calling you home. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "The present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it. That joy is already within you, not out there in the next goal or accomplishment. Not waiting for your life to finally settle down, but here, in the rise and fall of your breath, in the warmth of your coffee, in the pause between thoughts. You don't need to overhaul your life. You don't need to meditate for hours or read stacks of books. You simply need to begin, wherever you are, however you are. Start with one breath, one mindful cup of tea, one walk without your phone, one moment of silence before responding to that difficult email. That's how it begins. And slowly, those moments become a practice, a refuge, a way of living that feels lighter, more compassionate, more connected. And no, it doesn't mean you won't get angry, distracted, or overwhelmed. You will. We all do. But mindfulness gives you space. It teaches you how to return, to respond instead of react, to soften instead of shut down, to live instead of merely survive. If something in this message resonates with you, if your heart is whispering yes, then I invite you to keep walking this path with us. Our mindfulness channel was created exactly for this reason, to support people just like you, curious, honest, and ready to live more deeply through simple, accessible teachings rooted in both ancient wisdom and modern science. Whether you're brand new or already familiar with mindfulness, our space is a place where you'll find short guided practices, reflections inspired by teachers like Thich Nhat Hanh, Tara Brach, and Jon Kabat-Zinn, and a warm community of fellow travelers. No pressure, no perfection, just presence. You're not alone in this, and you don't have to figure it all out today. All you have to do is begin. Take a breath. Come back to this moment. Come home to yourself. We'll meet you there. Ready to begin? Join us on the Mindfulness channel and take your first step into a more present, peaceful, and meaningful life, one breath at a time. Nếu bạn cần bản dịch tiếng Việt, hình ảnh minh họa, hoặc muốn truyền bài viết này thành video script podcast cho kênh Mindfulness, mình sẵn sàng hỗ trợ tiếp.